Today we are turning the lens on a very important topic, loneliness. Some say it's becoming an epidemic, and as a society, it's something we need to start talking about. Many believe that technology is largely responsible for our increased feelings of isolation. Here's a story of one man who found a way to use technology to help others with their loneliness and also helping himself along the way.
You can be around a bunch of people but still feel undeniably alone. I didn't have any friends that were struggling with their sexuality. I didn't have any friends that were struggling with their mental health. And this is where I turned to online communities and online forums to really understand that. It became a place where I could communicate with others who were dealing with similar issues or having the same thoughts as I was. I could be going to school, walking through lives in a normal pace, and feeling completely empty, feeling blank, kind of like a phantom walking through the halls type of thing. But yet I could go home, open up a desktop, and communicate with individuals who were in the same mental space as I was. When I was younger, I used to really care about the follower count. I look at it now and I see that there's a high following count, but I may not communicate with that many people. I had to find ways that I can deal with what was going on in my own way. So what I ended up taking up was photography. There was this one woman that I saw on the street. She just had an amazing soul, and I went up to her and said, I really think you're beautiful. I would love to photograph you. And she lit up and was like, yes, go ahead. So that was terrifying. Photography became something where I can engage with other people in a non-threatening environment that allows them to share their stories to me. When there's a time you feel lonely, it's because you feel like there's no one else there. You do feel like that no one else is going to understand and that no one else is going to represent what you're feeling. But with age and time, I realized that isn't actually the case. There's a lot of people going through similar issues. There's a lot of people going through much worse. I want to hear their stories and I want them to feel like they're being heard.
Thank you, Kyle, for sharing that story. We've got two great experts with us right now. Ramona Pringle, tech expert and professor at Ryerson University. Hi, Ramona. And Dr. John Callegher, millennial sociologist and Professor George Brown. Thanks, both of you, for coming in and talking to me. I think that you are in such an exciting industry to be studying this every day and having these fantastic students so you can bounce ideas off of. I've talked to both of you in advance about tech and loneliness, and you both sort of have a different take on it. John, we chatted about it. You say tech is allowing us to struggle less, and as we struggle less, we are feeling less fulfilled, and we are feeling more isolated, and we are feeling more lonely. So can you explain to us how that works? Tech, look, it's getting in the way of all of our conversations. How does that whole process work?
Yeah, so technology has provided us with so many conveniences, things that we haven't been used to having in past decades, and it's happening really fast. And when you have more and more things that are convenient for you, when you can have groceries be delivered to you, when you can have fast food delivered to you, when you can, in the push of a button, have a car pick you up instead of going for a long walk, you rely less on other people. And when you rely less on other people, and they rely less on you, you struggle less. And the happiest communities are those where there's a little bit of struggle in your life. Because when you struggle less, you have a little less sense of meaning, a little less sense of purpose, and you have communities where people don't feel like they can depend on each other. And there is this sense of sadness there, isolation. And surprise, surprise, anxiety is up, suicide rates are up, drug use is up here and across the United States. It's a very, very dangerous time that we're living in because all of this is within our control.
Interesting. I can see, I mean, when you say that, I see the validity in that. And sometimes I feel myself even rejecting the whole, do we just get the food delivered home? And I don't know why. And maybe it's because his life is just getting a little bit too easy and you're losing that meaning, right? Ramona, we talked a bit about this as well, and you say let's not point the finger at tech when it comes to loneliness. Why?
Well, so it's interesting. I agree with so much of what you're saying, and I think historically, again, we have this tendency to be really nostalgic and think that things, were better before. We look at the 50s and, sort of Leave It to Beaver and this era of family values, and that sort of we were more connected then. And I think quite often when we look at technology, we tend to think, oh, it's Facebook that's making us lonely. It's our smartphones. We're staring into these screens instead of gazing into each other's eyes. In fact, historically, when you look at the 50s, this is when we got cars and TVs and we moved out to the suburbs. It's when we stopped doing things like engaging in bowling leagues, when you had that sort of communal engagement. So I think it's really, a very, very similar perspective. What I've seen, though, is quite often, when we're so drawn to these, let's say, social networks, social platforms, it's not that we're addicted to them, we're addicted to each other, to the people on the other side of the screen. And so it is this desire to be not just connecting and not just the likes, and this is the rabbit hole that I think we often fall down when it can get more negative, but it is this desire to be part of something that's bigger than ourselves. You see it in the story with the photographer, where when we can be engaging with a community that we may not have the opportunity to because, the social infrastructure, the ATMs, everything's automated, right? From the way we check out our groceries, if they're not getting delivered, it's still automated, or, the way you even have automated checkout at the library. If you're not getting those connections there, we're still hungry for them. And so the positive that I would say is there is an opportunity to find communities or like minds that may not have existed previously.
And would you temper that with, once you find that community, reach out in real life?
Absolutely.
Because we still need that. We need the touch, we need the feel, we need the eye contact. And I think maybe that's what might be missing from people that are trying to get it all from the phone.
The big differentiator is, are these tools a means to an end or the end in and of themselves? And the interesting thing is most of the research says we use these tools and the end is, okay, let's meet up. Or, I met someone the other night who was telling me that, she uses Words with Friends and she uses Instagram, and that she lives alone and she's actually quite lonely. But when she's traveling now, she'll find herself in London and she'll have dinner with an old colleague who she might have worked with in New York, because it is a means to an end. You are engaging, you're having these conversations, and I think quite often we do. What's most fulfilling is still the face-to-face.
Right, okay. So I see you both sort of land at the same place. You still need the face-to-face connections. We're never going to get away from that. And once those are depleted, we feel less quality in our relationships.
It's how we're wired.
It's how we're wired.
Physical interactivity.
Absolutely.